Okay, let's see, back to you. Where are we?
We're ready to go into executive.
Yep.
Okay, where are we going to do board member comments first?
Yeah.
Yeah, board member comments.
All right. We'll do that. We're going to do quickly board chair's report and then open it to any board member comments, then go into executive. So I will be quick, I promise. I always say that. Molly will kill me if I'm not. So let me just report. I often haven't because I wanted to speed this along, but a couple cool things I was able to do this last month. I went to the news conference up in Wasatch, heard some great things about what they're working on, PLCs that are doing so well in a number of places. They had a question that I was able to respond to. A year ago, we passed a revision to Rule 217, which required LEAs to report to UPAC, or at least pass on to UPAC, parent complaints about teacher misconduct. There was some concern and question about that rule. Superintendent Dixon and I were both there. We were able to answer that and explain. We had a really, just flashed me back to a good lengthy discussion we had here, to some protections put in, clarification, made clear that this is a second set of eyes. It didn't mean there was a flag on a teacher's file. It meant UPAC would be aware. They would exercise independent decision about whether to take action. And so there was some concern about whether simply referring to UPAC, the fact that they had a complaint, was itself a report that triggered an investigation, and we were able to resolve that concern, and I appreciated the opportunity. So that was out there, and you may still be getting questions about it, so I raise it for that reason. We had got another email about it recently that also had some misperception about it. So good opportunity to clarify work that, again, we did a year ago, but, you know, sometimes the information still is misunderstood. Good opportunity to talk about it. I got to go to the Davis Catalyst Center this last week. Amazing facility. Kids working on their own projects with industry who has donated and then participated. Got somebody walk around in the incredible audio room and video room that just came from KUTV and is helping the kids do audio projects. Then they're doing some commercial here for the pharmacy, which is also part of their building. So those kids are working on that stuff over here. Kids here are working on video production, and 2 or 3 examples that I heard were kids in one department that might have been audio video doing production for kids in a different department that was doing, you know, pharmaceuticals or tech or whatever else. So just a really cool opportunity to see these kids learning what's out there, what's available, getting hands-on early, great facilities there. And then I got to go to the staff breakfast, which was a blast. Remember Wood and I were there, got to serve maple syrup and just be able to see all our staff. So it was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate with them and have a good time and kind of start to feel that holiday spirit, buzz, etc. So a couple quick thoughts, a little bit like Member Davis. I've thought about, you know, what I care about here, and like you, I care about our kids. I got 5, I got 2 still in the public system. The question then becomes sort of how do you focus your care? And I've thought about some of the things that I've focused on as a board member and a chair, and I think they're a celebration really of what works. I've tended to have thoughts or ideas about how we can better identify what's working for kids, what's moving the needle. And some of the things that I've been passionate about, and you won't hear me rambling on about these, at least not here. I might be rambling on somewhere, but ULEAD is one that I've enjoyed, and as Megan Everett has brought that to a point where it's really buzzing. We got a data guy that's looking. We got outside higher ed researchers looking. We got districts coming together in a cohort to say, okay, we asked you who's killing it in 6th grade math. You identified these people. We understand it. We heard some of the things they're doing in PLCs, the way they're improving their practice, how they're using formative assessments, sharing data. I got to sit in on a couple of those. It was a blast. It was a project where people didn't know they were outliers, and they sat there and said, we had no idea we were jumping off the chart, but we'll tell you what we did 4 years ago that brought us here. And the culture, for one, that the principal introduced in their PLC, the rigor that the PLC lead was using, the opportunity teachers had to admit where they're falling short and then learn from each other in both a compassionate and rigorous way. That combination's not always there, was inspiring. I've enjoyed working up with some of you this master teacher role that we kind of sponsored up and got some funding for, and have enjoyed seeing that. That involves finding who's doing it well. Who are the teachers that are the masters that might be treated like an administrator in pay, but still keep your foot in the classroom, kind of a headmaster type of a role. And so we got about $5 million for that a couple of years back, and that was a lot of fun. The ROI project I talked about earlier is a chance to see whether things are working. The parent engagement specialist was something that I was passionate about. We got Cassie out there trying to help schools understand what's working on parent engagement. We've got distrust. You've got some tension out there, and part of what we tasked her with is figure out who's doing it well, who's making a partnership between the school and the parents, and how are they doing it. And so she's doing that. Recently, Wasatch and some others, as I asked around, brought to us the question of whether we could alter the assessment a bit, because their PLCs, the way they learn from each other internally, the way they learn from other schools externally, would be benefited if they had course-specific, locally developed end-of-year assessments in grade 9 and 10. And so that became an interesting discussion with Assistant Superintendent Nielsen, a lot of the districts. But again, their motive for that was, we're hungry to learn. And when we have this alignment between our formative and summative assessments, we can internally get that PLC really cranking, and we can go out to Tooele or JUAB and we can say, hey, you're crushing it in 10th grade chemistry or whatever that is. We want to learn from you. So as I sit back and just think about some things that I've tried to work on and had the privilege of working with a lot of you on, that's a theme for me. It's celebrating and learning from what's really working well, what's moving the needle. And some things don't move the needle, and it's an opportunity to make distinctions, to say, okay, what's a distraction? What maybe, and this is the last time you'll hear this from me, but what might get us into the realm where we let good intentions mask asking the right questions and doing rigorous analysis, and we end up in, yes, cuddle and muddle. Apologies for using that over and over, but that's where we go wrong. And where we go right, I see wonderful things happening in Utah schools, and having the ability to learn from them if we structure the system in a way that brings that to the fore, and then we have the ability to say, okay, that's working better. What can we do about that? So anyway, that's my report, and I'll just, for a second, I won't turn it back to any of you that have comments, but going from Chair Moss to Member Moss, I just want to say thank you all. This has been the adventure of a lifetime. It's been a privilege. My group came on in the middle of COVID. We sat at home and addressed some pretty tricky issues while we were either masked up here or in our basement bedroom somewhere. And we got up to speed on all of the issues, all of the personalities. It was a challenge, but it was a thrill. And so I just want to say thanks as a person, as Jim Moss, for being able to work with all of you. I've agreed with all of you in one form or another. I've disagreed with all of you in one form or another. I've learned from every single one of you about something. We've got a wealth of experience, background, perspective here, and that's been what makes it so fun. We come from all over the place, and we bring our ideas and our background here, and we're able to sort out our ideas about some very important issues for the students of Utah. So I want to thank you, and I'll be around. I'm off to my next phase will partly involve the Center for Constitutional Studies over at UVU. You teachers in here know how much I envy you, and I've been able to become a teacher in the last year. I'm a college professor, so it's not K-12, but it's 13 practically. It's college freshman learning Intro to American Government, and I'll be teaching another class there. I'll be participating in a master's program that CCS runs with the Department of Education over there at UVU, and doing some writing and other stuff. So one of my projects that I'm looking forward to is just to let members straight and others know I'm following your history example. I'll be examining some of the Adams-Jefferson correspondence after they were reconciled through the help of Abigail and Benjamin Rush. They had a wonderful exchange of letters, and one of them says, from John Adams, "You and I ought not to die before we explain ourselves to each other." And they did that for 12 years and then died on the same day. And they disagreed in a way that I think Chair Hymas talked about was conflict without contention. And I'm looking forward to doing some of that examination of how do you do that work? How did they exemplify it from bitter enemies to people who really hashed out the great ideas of the day in a very vigorous but respectful way? So that's my future. I look forward to seeing you around, and just thank you for letting me have this privilege of serving with you. So that's my report.